If you ever needed proof that Ford in its finest moments could build a car as mad as anything the Italians or Germans could conjure up, then look no further than the RS200. It was a machine so wild, so technically insane, and so purpose-built for chaos that it makes most modern supercars look cookie-cutter. It was Ford's answer to the insanity that was Group B rallying, a no-compromise, all-wheel drive missile designed to obliterate dirt roads and leave a trail of turbocharged destruction in its wake. But to truly understand why the RS200 exists, you need to go back to the early 1980s, when rallying was arguably the most exhilarating form of motorsports on the planet. The FIA had introduced the infamous Group B regulations, which essentially told manufacturers to go as fast as you want, just make 200 road cars so we can pretend that this is all somewhat sane. The result? Lightweight turbocharged monsters with power figures creeping into 4-digit territory, driven by madmen with nerves of steel. Ford, a company deeply embedded in rallying history thanks to the Escort, saw what was happening and wanted in. Initially the plan was simple: take the existing Escort, throw in some serious upgrades and unleash it onto the world. But Ford quickly realized that their rear-wheel drive platform was outdated and no match for the upcoming all-wheel drive monsters from Peugeot, Audi and Lancia. So they scrapped the idea and started from scratch. The result was the RS200, a car that shared absolutely nothing with any Ford production model. Instead, it was a purpose-built mid-engine rally car with a lightweight space frame chassis, all-wheel drive and a turbocharged engine that, depending on the mood of the engineers, could produce anywhere from 250 horsepower to 800. But as I said, unlike most Group B cars, which were based on existing road-going models, the RS200 was a completely ground-up design. This meant Ford could engineer it precisely for rallying, rather than being constrained by production car underpinnings. The chassis was a masterpiece of over-engineering, designed by Tony Southgate, an ex-Formula 1 and Le Mans car designer. It featured a tubular space frame with double wishbone suspension and twin dampers at each corner, ensuring it could absorb jumps and landings that would shatter most cars into scrap metal. Then there was the drivetrain. The RS200 was mid-engined with a 1.8-litre Cosworth PDT 4-cylinder turbocharged engine sitting just behind the driver. But in a move of absolute engineering madness, the gearbox was mounted at the front of the car. Why? Well, this allowed for a perfectly balanced 50-50 weight distribution, and a center differential gave drivers 3 different torque split settings: 50-50, 67-33, or the frankly terrifying 100% to the rear wheels. And then there was the bodywork. Ford turned to Ghia for design, and the fiberglass panels were built by none other than Reliant. Yes, the same company responsible for the 3-wheeled Robin. The result was a sleek but aggressive shape that looked like a mutant blend of rally car and spaceship. Now with all of that, Ford was ready to take on the rallying world. By 1985, the RS200 was homologated with the required 200 road-going versions built. The rally version, meanwhile, was cranking out between 380 and 450 horsepower, making it an absolute missile on the dirt. In qualifying trims, some versions were tuned to an earth-shattering 800 horsepower, launching the car from 0 to 60 miles per hour in just over 2 seconds, on gravel. And just remember, this is a 1.8-litre turbo 4-banger producing 800 horsepower. That's bloody insane. But despite all of this, the RS200 had one major problem. It was late to the party. The car made its World Rally Championship debut in 1986, but by then Group B had already reached critical mass. Cars were getting faster, more dangerous, and the FIA was losing control. Disaster struck at the 1986 Rally Portugal, when a privateer RS200 driven by Joaquim Santos went off the road and plowed into a crowd of spectators, killing 3 and injuring dozens more. Just a few months later, Henry Toivonen and Sergio Cresto perished in a fiery crash in the Lancia Delta S4 at the Tour de Corsa. And that was the final straw. Group B was banned at the end of 1986, and the RS200's career was over before it had even begun. But while its rallying career was tragically short-lived, the RS200 refused to fade into obscurity. With Group B's demise, many of the surviving cars found their way into rallycross, where they became absolute weapons, tuned to absurd horsepower levels. The RS200s dominated the European Rallycross Championship, where their monstrous power and all-wheel drive grip allowed them to embarrass everything in their path. Some also found their way into hill climber events, most famously Pikes Peak, where the combination of brutal power and lightweight construction made them perfect for attacking the treacherous course. Now, of course, to get the RS200 into Group B, Ford had to build 200 road-going versions, but calling the RS200 a road car is like calling a sword a kitchen utensil. It is technically true, but you wouldn't want to use it every day. The street-legal RS200s were slightly tamed, with power dialed down to a modest 250 horsepower, although some were later tuned to over 600. The driving experience was completely raw. It was a barely-tamed rally monster with an unforgiving clutch, a heavy steering feel, and a drivetrain that needed a racing mindset to properly exploit. The engine was laggy at low speeds, the interior was Spartan at best, and the build quality was, well, let's just say it was very much a low-volume motorsports special affair. They were also hideously expensive, costing more than a Ferrari 328 GTB at the time. Predictably, not many people were willing to spend supercar money on a road-legal rally car, and it took Ford nearly a decade to sell the last few units. Which is ironic, because these days, these things sell for around $400,000. But hindsight is a wonderful thing. Today, the RS200 is one of the most sought-after homologation cars ever built. Prices have skyrocketed, and examples in pristine conditions regularly fetch six-figure sums at auctions. The Evolution models, which were fitted with a 2.1-liter version of the Cosworth engine and produced up to 600 horsepower in road-going trim, are even rarer and more expensive. Anyways, the RS200 was, in many ways, a tragic hero. It was arguably the most advanced car of the Group B era, but it arrived too late to prove itself. It had all the ingredients to be a championship winner, yet its moment was cut short by forces beyond its control. And yet, despite its brief career, the RS200 remains one of the most revered cars in rallying history. It represents a time when engineers were given free rein to create absolute monsters before regulation stepped in and spoiled the fun. Today, it's a collector's dream, a raw, unfiltered turbocharged maniac that serves as a reminder of the most dangerous, thrilling, and spectacular era of motorsports. Ford may have built faster cars since, but none have been quite as wild as the RS200. But at the end of this video, please let me know what you guys think of this car and its story. Did you guys enjoy this video? Because if you did, I would ask that you please leave a like and subscribe to this channel. Also, if you did like this video, you will most probably enjoy most of my other stuff, so just go through my channel, see if there's something else you like. I'll check you guys in the next one. Cheers, eh?